Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your end of November 2019 General Tarot Update. It's Raina here. Happy birthday to those Sages born in the first decade of Sag, first 10 degrees. So at the end of this month, that is going to be happening. I'm trying to remember when the sun goes into Sag. So we have the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio ending on the 20th. Thank sweet Jesus for that. In my solar chart of Sag, that's my 12th house. Oof. So I think that'll be nice. That'll be a nice change of pace. But also, there's, but I don't know exactly when the sun goes, and I know that the new moon is on the 26th, so I'm thinking that the sun is going around the 21st or so. We shall see. Maybe 22nd. Or no, is it 23rd? Oh, well. Whatever. Whatever. Let's see what's happening. 3 fire. This is fire energy, baby. Wow. It's so funny because I'm getting like this father energy and fire energy like themes. Okay. So I hope I didn't mix up these cards because I have 2 decks with the exact same set of cards, and I spent this morning trying to sort them out. Okay, so the top 3 cards are all fire cards. Now, of course, Sag is a fire sign. The other fire signs are Aries and Leo. But there's this theme with fire, which is about the individual. And so you may feel like you have to defend yourself when it comes to doing your own thing. And boy, I mean, it could run the gamut. It could be on the job or it could be in personal relationships. It's not in one specific area that this tends to happen. The heart of the matter is the 7 of Wands. That card of the defensive posture, kind of pushing back on someone about something. And because we have these father cards, there could be like an example would be a woman who feels like her partner is treating her like a child that is being ordered around. And so she is, I mean, in some cases there may be that projection of the father onto every man. So it might not even be the man's fault. Or even if the man has those tendencies, the woman chose a man that was like that, and she knew it from the beginning. But there's a sense of fighting for your right to be who you are. And this is something, you know, as we progress and head into early December, Jupiter is now fully in our sign, you know, has come out of its shadow. And Jupiter is the ruler of our sign, and so there's that, you know, since Jupiter makes everything bigger, it can make our Sagittarius tendencies really stand out. And one of them is freedom. One of them is the desire to have that sense of expansion. When somebody tries to keep you in a box and not let you explore different things. If you want a certain career, because there's a career card here, and yet somebody may not approve of your career choices. And even like, the funny thing is, I was talking about a partner, but this could be even your parents. Perhaps it is a father who is still trying to dictate to you what you should do with your life, and you're middle-aged, I mean, these things are very common in people. They might not always talk about them, but they are certainly there. Now, in the past position, we have the Nine of Wands, and you can look at that person's face, and they feel pretty leery, wary of what's to come. In this particular, this is the Rider-Waite deck. This is how they depict it. My Morgan Greer deck shows more of like this kind of, whatever you want to call them, a sentry guarding the gates of, the temple or whatever. But the point is that when I look at the Nine of Wands, I look at somebody who is, again, in a defensive posture because they know what's coming. They know that. I really think of the Nine of Wands as a card where somebody from your past, somebody that you've dealt with, like an ex, comes into your life, or if this is like a narcissistic parent, whoever it is, or even a boss. Sometimes you have these bosses that try to toy with their employee, have the employee quit, and then they take them back again, and it's like back and forth. Yeah, so in any case, you may have anticipated that somebody was starting to kind of sniff around again. And I mentioned to another sign, I think it was Scorpio, that this was a similar theme, where it's like the person knows that you have finally gotten over them, and it's like they have this uncanny sense of that, and then they come back. Okay, and this seems to be frequent enough to mention it regularly, because I've been mentioning it regularly, because it seems like people are dealing with this. Remember that you're an ex for a reason, and this doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, though. This could even be like a friend. If you have kind of a toxic friend, perhaps at the beginning you didn't see it that way, and you realized maybe that this person was self-absorbed, only interested in themselves, and you didn't feel like it was a mutual relationship, and you kind of maybe distance yourself from this person, and they're back, they're calling up, trying to get information about you, what you've been up to. And if you have made up your mind that this person is not somebody that you really think you can have a decent relationship with, you can do the gray rock technique, which is basically giving answers that contain no content. So, somebody says, "Oh, what have you been doing lately?" "Oh, just the usual. How have you been doing?" And just kind of pivot it, and, but do it in a way that isn't too obvious, so that you can avoid having to give this person ammunition, because they tend to use that information against you. Now, the Nine of Wands can also be boundaries, and you may have in your mind set some boundaries about this person, whoever this person is, and you're just waiting to use them, Oh gosh, I think that there are a lot of people who understand what I mean by this, about somebody who's problematic, who has all these complaints about you, but they just can't stop contacting you. And it's like, it's maddening, really. But especially for Sag, because we tend to want to not have to deal with other people's issues when we know that they have no intention of changing and they don't really care about our feelings. They're just in it for the drama. The higher message is the Ten of Wands, and you can see the person hunched over. This person is taking on a very heavy burden. Now, in my Anthony Lewis tarot book, which is a great reference book when you're learning the tarot, because it has a lot of great keywords, I always attribute this one. He says the burdens of success with this card. But this is the spiritual message, so I tend to look at the philosophical ramifications associated with this. And I would say codependency, the tendency to take responsibility for other people's feelings, their status in life, if they have screwed up, and think, oh yeah, if only I had done something differently, especially if they blame. People who blame are, you can tell already that they are very manipulative, and they're not taking responsibility for their life. When you blame, you're not doing that. So right there, you can see if somebody is, what their intentions are in the future, if they intend to kind of better themselves, or if they're just going to continue to blame. And if they continue to blame, then it's not going to get any better, that they're just kind of looking for somebody to put everything on. And so it's up to you, in other words, to see if this relationship is really worth salvaging. Like I said, it could even be a friend where they're burdening you with their problems and they're looking for a sympathetic ear. There's probably like few better than Sag for that, for various reasons. But if this person does this all the time, then this can be very one-sided and not the kind of, this could be very draining, So it's very important. What crosses you is the Four of Swords. So it means that you're not really taking care of your needs. By the way, the Ten of Wands can be a card of overwork. I wasn't reading it in the mundane, literal sense. I was just kind of looking for the more philosophical meaning. But with the Four of Swords, you may be very active. Those Wands cards can point to activity, but there's not balance. And perhaps with the Nine of Wands, the issue of boundaries is something you're still working with, especially if your moon is in Libra or Pisces, where you have a tendency to kind of kowtow to another person and give them what they want, because you don't really want to face any kind of like upset on their part where they're like, oh, why won't you do this? Why won't you do that? And they just get like really upset about it and stuff. You have to be willing to risk that in order to protect your boundaries. There's just no way around it. And once you get into the hang of it, you will do it like a champ, and you will be able to feel a sense of freedom, and you won't feel resentment when you are, like when you are actually doing something for somebody else. You won't feel like, oh, I have to do this. You'll actually feel like you want to do it, which is how it should be. This can be a card where it would behoove you to separate from this person if you're living with this person, or at least maybe take a retreat, an inexpensive few days to get your head together somewhere. It doesn't have to be far away, but you need that in order to figure out your next step, but you refuse to do it for whatever reason. Excuse me. What's coming in, this could be the advice, or where the energy suggests things are happening. We're talking about the King of Cups in reverse. If this is this individual, so the King of Cups in reverse would be someone who may be chronologically older than you, or at least, but not necessarily mature-wise. This person could be emotionally immature. They could have a drinking problem, or other form of substance abuse, and this is because they don't have control of their emotions. I would even say any kind of mood disorder where the person goes off the rails sometimes, and then they apologize, and it's a whole thing, and it's just back and forth. This person is trying to dominate others with their emotions. If this is somebody, I was just thinking of somebody coming back to you, but perhaps this is more like trying to set boundaries with this person more than them going back and forth with you. And so if you're dealing with them on a regular basis or a daily basis, you may have to, if they do have a drinking problem, you can't relate to them like everything is normal. You have to treat them in a way that is consistent with making sure that you're not enabling them in their drinking. And that is something that you can find out in a support group like Al-Anon, because they talk about why you have to do things that way. It involves not enabling them so that they are not assisted in their self-destruction. The King of Cups in reverse can be a manipulative person. So whatever is going on, I know this is crazy. Something, when I saw that Nine of Wands, I was thinking of somebody who wants to open up your relationship. And that's something that's like a boundary that you just feel this sense of no. If you ever feel, no, I don't want to do this or that, you should honor your feelings. You should examine your feelings. That's always good. Not to just have strong feelings that you don't know why they're so strong in a particular direction. But if you have really thought about this and you have decided that it's not for you, then there's no reason to, you don't have to explain why, although that's always helpful. But if the person refuses to listen to you, then you simply, let it go. You don't need somebody else's approval of your lifestyle differences. You don't have to make your case, in other words. This person may have the tendency to feel like you do owe them a certain thing. The King of Cups in reverse may remind you of nice things they've done for you, or why it's depriving them of happiness because you won't do this. So with the Seven of Wands, you may feel like you're under attack, that you have to make your case and stuff. Just realize that this is a manipulation on this person's part to try to make you feel like you're doing something that kind of like doesn't give them what they want, and yet they don't realize that you have the right to say no. Sometimes people will act like you don't have the right to say no in a relationship. The other thing too, again, is a father who's out of control. A father who emotionally may be having problems in his own life. And if you grew up with him having these problems, it's triggering. It reminds you of how it used to be. And you can feel like, my father's never happy with what I've done. And that can feel very self-defeating. But the outcome card, I think, is very interesting. This is the Emperor. And this is another card that's associated with the father. But I think this is you. In other words, you gaining control over your life so that you don't seek approval. When you have emotional control over your life, you're only concerned with how you view yourself. Everybody else, it's like that saying, what you think of me is none of my business. And when you can really embody that, that's really awesome. Yeah, I mean, even in the workplace, if you find that you have been under siege, that you have felt like you can't trust coworkers, I could see the Nine of Wands being that. It's like, okay, where are the attacks going to come from next? Or who's, maybe you meet with the boss and your boss is telling you these things about you that you're like, okay, who is feeding the boss these negative tidbits? And why? Well, we know why. This person wants to get, suck up to the boss. Brown knows the boss. By saying negative things about you and implying that there's something wrong with you. And you can either buy into it or you can refuse to acknowledge it and refuse to allow anyone to treat you like you are not good enough, that you're doing something wrong. That's what the Seven of Wands is about, like you having to defend your position on something. And you really don't have to. And in that case, you may be dealing with a narcissistic boss, and that could be the King of Cups in reverse. And what it might be saying is, this person has a drinking problem, and even if they don't drink on the job, their mentality is still affected by that. And there may be, very deep reasons why they're doing that. But the bottom line is that they're not really in their right mind, even when they're sober. They're just very emotionally unhinged, emotionally unbalanced, and trying to make you the guilty party. It's all your fault. And the Emperor is about you gaining control of the situation. Okay, I hope that made sense for at least some of you Sages out there. For a personalized reading, please visit me at my website. It's in the description box below. Take care. Bye.